Welcome back to the CJ Silas Show. I said this earlier, and I know it might sound kind of weird, but you know, I'm a pretty transparent person. And there are people on the planet that do so much better for the world than me that they make me a little uncomfortable, but not uncomfortable bad, just kind of like excited. And this woman who's sitting across from me for the first time and is even more radiant in person with her shining rainbow light around her is just an incredible human. And I'm not even going to tell her story. I'm going to let her tell you her story. Her name is Mia Armstrong. She's 18 years old, and I am so glad to have you in my studio. Welcome in.
Thank you for having me. I've never really done anything like this before, but I'm super excited.
So I read your story in the New Times, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to tell the story. I'm going to let you tell the story. So I did give a little background. You were a competitive dancer. You've been dancing since you were 2 years old. You did national competitions when you were 12. And there was a time in your life where physically you just started to crash. So go back to that time and just share with the audience. And we have time, so don't feel rushed. We really just want to hear the story.
I was training like any other competitive athlete. It was intense. I was 12, but it was 6-7 days a week, 5-6 hours a day. We're in Vegas for pretty much our biggest national competition ever when things really crashed. We didn't know what was going on. I hadn't had any health issues prior, and everything kind of hit at once. I was passing out, sick at the competitions, just could not keep going. And the second we got home from that, my mom took me into Valley Children's, and they kind of had the reaction of like, oh, there's no way it could be this bad, because if it was, you would be like passed out, you wouldn't be talking to us. And then they ran it again, and 50 doctors come in at once, tell you all what's wrong, and starting in on everything.
And you were?
I was 12.
12.
12. So that kind of started that summer of, we didn't know exactly what happened, but we were able to get back to a steady point with my health, got my hemoglobin back up. That was the big issue. And then for a few years after that, kind of steady, you know, chronic issues continued, but found a good, healthy balance of whatever it means to like live with chronic illness, whatever type of balance that means. And then about a year ago, I started experiencing more issues, more chronic issues that came on, lupus related, RA, so everything kind of started flaring up and changing again. And then this past May I had a lupus flare, an RA flare, pretty much the biggest thing that's ever could have hit all at once, and I ended up back at Children's over in Fresno and stopped being able to walk. That's where this whole kind of mystery hit its head and started of, I walked into the hospital and I did not walk out.
Wow. Okay, I want to come back to that, but first I just, something triggered me wanting to know, as a 12-year-old. How does a 12-year-old understand and wrap their arms around this happening to them? I mean, 12's young.
12's young. 12-year-old, she didn't wrap her head around what was going on. I had like half of what I needed in my body to function, so I was not functioning. For multiple years, I was at like half-scale function and performance of, I wasn't going to school, couldn't participate in any sport, anything, so she wasn't dealing with it. It took quite a while to get to a point to reflect and be like, oh wow, that was kind of a big deal. That was a lot to work through. Going through that all again now, you don't really think about it when you're in it. You can't really take that moment to pause and say like, wow, this is hard, because then if you did do that right in the moment, you would stop, kind of freeze up. So once you're out of it, then you can kind of go back and say, wow,
This is my reality.
This is real.
So now, 6 years later, this May, it really hits you. Now you're in a wheelchair.
Yes.
And you went from a competitive dancer for years, huge competitions, success, thriving in life. How does a young person wrap her head around, how do you, embrace is the wrong word, how do you accept what has happened to you, or do you not? What's your frame of mind at this moment?
The frame of mind I've taken on, that a lot of people come and say like, wow, you've been so inspirational and accepting all of these challenges that come and dealing with everything so well. And Of course, it's great to hear that and have people say you know what they mean by that sentiment. But also, what else am I supposed to do? What else? How am I supposed to just not deal with it? Am I supposed to just give up? No, you find what works and you make do with your new situation. So as much as you do emotionally deal with it, you've also just got to be like, this is it. I can either be bummed about what I can't do, or it'll be a lot easier if I just start figuring out what I can do.
Women making waves.
Yeah.
I saw that on your Instagram, and I thought, you know, this is kind of an empowering crew. And
Absolutely.
now, are you involved with them? Is this one of those entities that keeps you feeling positive? How are you involved with them?
Yes, definitely. So the woman who runs it, her name is Tyler, and I met her through Instagram. We connected a few months ago, really not long at all. Kind of started when I made my Instagram page. And they had this community event they were putting on, and I went to it just to make a lot of good connections with the women involved with that organization, to really just say, okay, we're here to build connections, to fully allow you to be whoever you need to be. We will accept that and give you everything we have as well. So it's made a lot of happy connections.
I think someone like you, with the most incredible positive attitude, even though you can't have it every day, let's be real, I'm sure there are days you wake up and you're like, this sucks, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But just to what you can do as an activist, what you can do as a woman, what you can do as a role model and a mentor for young women, young boys, anybody in a chair or not, it's pretty incredible. And I think I saw where you said, there's nothing wrong with saying that I'm in a wheelchair. What was that?
Oh.
What was that about?
People get a little iffy about the word disability
Okay.
sometimes. They're like, you're differently abled. And it goes back to disability means the root word means not and without. I am without the ability to walk, or without any other ability to describe someone else. It's a descriptor. It's not a derogatory term. It can be used that way, which is where some of the negative connotation comes from. But it's not. I am a person with a disability. I am lacking the ability to use my legs. It's interesting how you can see some people tense up at their almost using the word, and then you can tell that they maybe don't want to say that word in front of you, and very much like, it's a describer. It's not the only thing, just like I have many other describers. That's just one of them. It's
interesting because I'm older, obviously much older, and I remember when I was a kid, we didn't see many wheelchairs out in the world because it was a different time.
Right.
And now it's a little more usual, but I think kids still freak out. Little kids, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Kids do, definitely. And a huge thing that I've noticed is I have worked closely with quite a few kids. I nannied with some kids and friends with lots of little ones. And sometimes if a young kid is like, Mom, why is she in a chair? Or Mom, what's wrong with her? The parent can be the one who seems to have a bit more of a negative reaction of, shh, don't say that, don't ask, don't say what's wrong with her. Well, it's often coming from a young child who literally does not know. They are probably genuinely concerned and just wondering. If they've never seen someone or have a close friend or family member who is in a chair or does have a visible disability, then they can just be asking. And oftentimes what I want to say to that parent is it's okay for them to ask, and it's even more okay for you to have them ask me. Why don't, as a parent, the best thing you could probably do in that situation is say, oh, I don't know, maybe you should ask her. And then it gives me the autonomy to tell you if I'm feeling up to it. Or if it's a kid, I can often say, it's because I'm a mermaid. I'm off land today. Sorry.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. She's Mia Armstrong. You can find her. Her Instagram is miasdisabili.t, miasdisabili.tea. And she's an incredible human. We're so lucky to have you in our area because I think you're going to really change the world. Not just for you in your own space, being positive and proactive and empowering yourself in your situation, but with people who can learn from you and look up to you, and you can create awareness. And it's just being on the show, I'm already learning. And it's cool.
Awareness is the biggest thing. A lot of time people, of course, they would love to have everyone included at every event and happening and at restaurants and at anywhere you want to go, but sometimes you just don't think of it. And it's not that the city doesn't want to include disabled people often, it's they're often not thought about and it's put off. So hopefully bringing some awareness to everything will just say, hey, we are still here, we are still just as important as you, and can go to the beach and can go and want to go to restaurants and bars and anywhere over here that all the fun kids want to go to. I mean, I can't even get around Cal Poly.
Wow. Yeah, that's tough.
Hopefully
Yeah.
we can start seeing the need and changes like this will bring.
And you know, you're doing it different because people do try to be advocates for certain things, but you're doing it with such a gracious, positive outlook. You're not angry, and I mean there are moments of anger, I'm sure,
Absolutely.
but you're not portraying it when you're talking to me, when you've been interviewed, obviously at the Avila Bay Club. And so I think that sometimes when we open our heart to share our story, it's received better. It's received in an open-hearted way as well. In fact, you sent me a text today, what do I need to bring when I come to the studio? And I just said, your amazingness and your open heart, because that's what we're sharing with people. That's what we're trying to empower people with, is the knowledge. So, and I wanted to also tell people that you can find Mia and more women that are amazing at women.making.waves on Instagram as well. And I'm going to make you come back in. Well, no, I'm going to request you come back in, okay? And I want to keep following your story. Yes. And I'm just so thankful for you both for coming into the studio and being
having me.
And it's courageous. And this is what we need. We need people to talk about it. We need people to share. And we need people to understand that there are a lot of people that don't walk,
and
that have a chance.
Who just want to go on the beach.
Yes!
That's kind of the biggest thing here of trying to get a beach access mat in Pismo.
Yes.
Said you just spent all that money on the brand new pier and everything, and you can't get across the ocean, or to the ocean across the sand.
Yeah.
So, working on that.
I'm pretty sure you're going to do it. And anything the CJ Silas Show can do, you'll let me know. We'll talk off air, because this is just the beginning of a new sisterhood. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night.
You too. She's Mia Armstrong.